So this one says, am I the asshole for being upset about my brother stealing $10,000 from my family? Last year, I went on a cruise with my siblings and parents. We all decided to link our bank accounts with our parents' account so we could buy things together on the trip. The way the cruises work is you get billed for all your expenses after the cruise rather than paying as you go. My brother decided he was going to gamble every day in the casino and ended up setting money aside leading up to the trip. While on the cruise, he gambled all of his money away, then decided to dip into my parents' funds to keep gambling, which he lost. He ended up continuing until he won it all back and gave it back to my dad as cash, who put it in the room's safe. The next morning, the money was gone, and it turns out my brother stole it from the safe and gambled more throughout the night. By the end of the trip, he lost around $10,000 of my parents' money, along with the money he set aside. He was told he needed to pay it back ASAP, but it's been a year and he still hasn't paid the money back. I don't come from an incredibly well-off family, but we get by. Since the cruise, my other siblings and I have been lending money to our parents so they could afford the basics. Every time money gets brought up, I make a big deal about it not being fair that my brother has gotten away with this. My parents keep telling me it isn't any of my business, and we often get into shouting matches over the situation. Am I the asshole?
This is a tough one because I feel like it's yes and no. Like, if this is a legitimate thing to be upset and frustrated about. Yeah. You know, like, obviously it's your brother's parents too, but like, these are your parents, and someone, regardless of who it is, screwed over your parents and put them in a tough position to where now the children have to support the parents just so they can get by. Like, yep. But on the other side, like, it's really not your place. You know, like, when things happen inside of the family, like, this sounds like it's a situation between your parents and your brother, and for you to continuously like inject yourself into the situation and get into shouting matches, like, it sounds like you are more frustrated with the parents for their lack of a response than you are for what the brother did. And I would be frustrated too, but I don't think it's really your place to one, fight your parents' battles, but also make this situation 10 times harder for your parents, because now they have to deal with the disappointment that they have in the brother, and also the disappointment that they have in you for your, I mean, honestly, kind of childish response to the situation. You know, it's the part where he said, I get into shouting matches. I don't think you're just getting into shouting matches with the brother. You're probably doing it with your parents because they're, you know, like, rightly so, like, they're not having the response that you would expect from it. But I don't know, it's tough. I'm kind of leaning towards saying he's a bit of an asshole for how he handled the situation, not for the situation itself, though.
Yeah, this is a tough one because, like you said, now it's the responsibility of the other siblings to like take care of the parents because of the one bad egg of the family that like took all the money. Yeah. But my thing is, don't ever combine. What was that thing? Like, combine bank accounts for cruise? Like,
it made no sense.
Yeah. And you're saying that you had like all this money and you guys went on a cruise. Like, why do you have to help your parents then? You know, like, I don't know if this just was a trip that was out of, you know, the realm of your finances, but I don't know. Maybe you need to set some boundaries with your parents. Hey, if you're not going to hold brother accountable, then I can't be helping you pay for groceries every month. You know what I mean? Because he's the reason that I have to be doing this. So unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to help anymore unless he has to also help you. So I see it from both sides. I'd be mad too at one of my siblings, but at the same time, if your parents don't want that back, that's fine, but they also need to face the fallout of it, which is not being able to afford life right now, you know?
Yeah. And I think the person who wrote this really needs to assess, like, and I'm not saying which is the right answer, but they need to assess what's more important, like your relationship with your brother and probably also your parents, or like the principal issue that has happened that your brother stole money from your parents and hasn't paid them back. Like that would, you know, deeply affect how I would see that person just from like a character level. Like, that would deeply affect it. But is that change of perspective of like how I now see my brother, is that worth losing out on the relationship I have with him? And honestly, it sounds like it would probably really impact the relationship you have with your parents. So, I mean, you got to decide which is more important. And if kind of standing your ground on this issue is more important, then you also got to be okay with the fallout, which is your parents are probably going to lean more towards sheltering the brother just because he's not the one yelling at them, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like he just has to decide like, okay, you're going to fight with the brother and fight with the parents, or, you know, and like set those boundaries with the parents by not paying for their things anymore. Or are you just going to say, you know what, maybe I'm just going to set the problems aside. I'm not going to be super friendly with my brother because I'm upset with him, but I am going to have a relationship with my parents and I am going to continue to help them because I want to do that. So you have to like take one of those two options there. You can't continue to stay in this cycle, or it's never going to get better, because if brother hasn't paid back yet, he's not going to. We know he's irresponsible with money. he's already made that very clear. So I don't think he's ever going to pay them back. And it's just like a wish that, he's going to go gamble it again. It's just a wish that he's never going to happen. You know what I mean?
I'm hesitant to say that the brother has a gambling issue because he did like plan ahead. He was like, I'm going to set this money aside just for gambling. But on the other hand, like you lost all your parents' money, and then when you won some of it back, you broke into the safe for the family safe in the hotel room and stole all that money and then lost it all. Like probably shouldn't be too hesitant to call it out for what it is, which is it seems like he has an addiction to gambling, and like you're right, like that money is probably never going to be paid back. So are you going to continue to be the instigator in the situation and not allow there to be peace in the family, right? Like I get it. Like this is an unfair situation for you because it's not only just something that you think is deeply wrong, but it's also something that's actually affecting your wallet, like your lifestyle, right? Because you have to pay for your parents because of your brother's mess up. But you got to determine like what's more important to me, the family, like keeping those relationships intact or standing your ground. And I don't know. It's a tough call because it also just reflects on the parents too. Like, why are you not having the response that a reasonable person would have to the situation?
Right. Yeah. The information, opinions, and recommendations provided on this podcast are for entertainment purposes only and do not constitute professional financial advice. Any financial decisions you make based on the content of this podcast are your responsibility. We strongly recommend consulting with a licensed financial advisor or other qualified professional before making any significant financial decisions. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that we are not liable for any financial outcomes.